volume a little bit. I see my volume's not quite loud enough. That might be better for you guys. Hopefully you can hear me better. Yeah. So, we're looking at a lot of cleanup work ahead. We're looking at a contingent or a big part of our audience, our society, if you will, that is not paying attention. And if Kamala Harris comes out and says undocumented immigrants are not the problem, they're just going to buy that and walk away. They're not going to dig in and look at the facts. And that's where you and I come in. That's where we are as digital warriors. That's our job, is to be out there and be able to say, hey, this is what's really going on. Here are the facts. Let me share the facts with you. New York Post had a cover story, I think it was yesterday or the day before, where they said that 95% of all the crimes, the arrests in New York are illegal immigrants at this point. So police are a little bit busy, aren't they? Interesting. Well, that's where it's headed, and we've got to keep an eye on it. And like I said, we have to be aware. Excuse me, my voice is not awake this morning. We have to be aware too that we have to take charge of our neighborhoods, because the police aren't going to be able to do it. They're going to be either overwhelmed or they're going to be hands off. They're going to be told, "Don't do anything, just let it play out." And you and I don't want that. We want to make sure that our neighborhoods are as protected as possible. That means we have to get together, little posses in every neighborhood, right? Keep an eye out for what's going on, and when something is looking weird, get the group together and go down as a group and go find out what's going on. We're seeing it in the small town that I live in. We're already seeing a lot of this stuff going on. So it's one of these things we got to pay attention to. I'm just looking at the screen right now. Looks like they're almost ready to rock. Just a couple more minutes.
You have it how you like it?
So I'm just kind of, I'm just filling in here while they do that. Let's see what else is in the Twitter feed today. Oh, look at this. Oh my gosh. I had to share this one. This one is just too much. This is the Walz family. You know, the vice presidential pick for Kamala Harris is Walz, Tim Walz, Tampon Tim. Look what his family did. Trump 2024, take America back. Walz's for Trump. The whole family is against him. Now, that isn't funny. I don't know what is. Well, that's a great way to start the day, right? To see that. Yeah. Well, we're seeing a lot more people coming over to our side, and it's not so much the Republicans. It's not so much that we're very different. It's like it really is the side of when I look at it, common sense, right? So if you go down the list of items that are important to us, we want a strong economy, right? We want people employed. We want the borders closed. We want, you go down the list, and it's like the majority of the population, agrees with that.
Which side's a good side for him
challenge,
to sit
right?
on, then? Which
Yeah,
is your
challenge,
good ear?
and that's how we're
Which is
bringing
your
more and
good-
more people over. If
That
you're
one?
hearing in the background,
he
you're
wants
hearing
to
the
sit
team
with his
getting
good
ready
ear
there.
towards
I'm going to
the-
lower that volume just a little bit so it's not so in our ears. I know that it's a little challenging as they're getting going, and it's a live set, and there's just a lot of setup that they've got to do. Just looking here. They're not giving me a signal yet, so I'm still good. I can go for a little bit longer. Woo! Let's see what else is in the Twitter feed this morning. Chart exposes terrifying reality. Okay, that's interesting. Laura, what's Laura posting this morning? Huh. Okay, that's interesting.
Checking the
That's
audio,
a post
checking the audio.
from Donald Trump. They're testing the audio now, so I'm a little distracted with that. Sorry about that. I'll see if I will get that there. Let me put this up here. You could read this while I help them with the audio. Hang on. A voter base, imagine if you will, a voter base so ignorant that even when their borders wide open, they will still vote for them simply because they're Democrats. I got to tell you, that really rings true, right? That's absolutely what's going on. And it is, in many respects, unimaginable at this point that anybody would be supporting Harris. I mean, the whole thing is a clown show, literally. And yet there are people, actors, actresses, musicians, who are steadfast in their support of her. I don't know. I asked the question. It's like, how could you possibly be, other than the fact that you're not informed? You're not digging in. You're not looking at anything that's going on.
We're ready.
It's a question, right?
How do you hear us?
Yeah, I hear you good. All right. I think they are ready to rock here. Yeah. All right. So let me put up the screen. I'll show you what I'm seeing of them, and then we'll switch over and make sure that. Let's see here. Just one little button to push. There we go.
Perfect. Thank you.
And there's Mr. Herms. I see him there. Let me put that screen up for you right now.
Onboard was great. It was really nice to have more people participate. But the 3 events that we had happening that same day, one in California, one in Arizona.
Sorry, we're live. Hey, test that real quick.
5,000 people at those
Ask
events.
him if he can hear Bruce or me talk.
So they're sending out the.
We're just checking the audio real quick. How do you hear us?
Yeah, way too low to put it in the middle like that. You got to pass it around.
Something bad's going to happen to you.
So we have to figure that out. Our other mics
And
pick
it's
us up from a long ways away.
You have to get some, right?
We're just doing audio checks, folks. So bear with us. We'll just get this
So we have
squared away, and then they can get the show rolling.
All right, we're ready. We're ready, Robert.
Okay, go for it.
Did he get my stuff there, Robert?
Yeah, I'm doing the same too. Yeah, I just muted mine. I'll get it started, Bruce. I'm gonna hand it right over to you. Okay.
Okay.
Just want to give them a. Were you gonna do
I'll
something?
wait. I was gonna, no, sorry. I'll do something different.
No, I don't mind.
I'm winging.
We are
I
winging.
have my notes in the car, but I'll save that for another day.
Okay, I was just going to explain something. Okay, hey folks, how you doing? This is a very intimate event. There's about 3 or 4 of these events online that you guys will notice that we'll have just a few people surrounding us, and and then we'll have a event at the end that I think we're going to probably have anywhere from 700 to 1,000 people at that event. So it ranges like that sometimes. What was interesting about this, and we'll have a good talk about this, is there's clearly apathy in different sections of the country. So right here, even though this is small right now, we had 3 times as many people said they were going to be here, right? Yeah, and it's rare when we have less people show than were actually said they were going to be here. But it's spotty. Now, sometimes maybe in Alabama, everybody's like, it's all great. We don't really need to have any conversations, right? I mean, some things are a lot better, and some things are worse, and it depends. You have to kind of pick your poison of where you are. I can tell you in California, it seems like a lot of people show up just because they're so angry, right? Over there. So it's very, very interesting the way it works. So what we'll do is we're going to do it a little bit different. Instead of doing, I think, a presentation, it doesn't even make sense at this point. We're just going to have a conversation, right? But what we've decided, Bruce and I decided, is because the few of you decided to show up, you're all going to get a free gift just because you're out there saying, you know what, I'm going to try to make a difference. And that matters, especially when only 1/3 of the people that said they were going to be here are here. So that means there's something that you have special with inside you. Maybe it's a frustration. Maybe you want to make a difference. Who knows what it is, but there's something going inside. So the guy that's supposed to run our prayer just left. So I think I'm going to do, mind if I pray real quick? Please. Lord Almighty, we thank you for this wonderful, just glorious day. And thank you for the beautiful people that are here and the ones watching online right now. And Lord, just please guide us to be the best we can be, and guide us to make the difference that we need to, in order to take the guidance to make that difference. And please give us favor over this event. Amen. Awesome. Bruce, what you got, brother man?
Well, I mean, just the introduction. If people don't know you guys here, know me. My name is Bruce. I go by Bruce Poppy, real name Bruce Feldman. Just a normal guy.
Not really.
Yeah. I'm a strange one. Yeah. I've never been afraid to be that. I've always been a fix it, positive, half glass full, positive mental health. Hey, this week there's a problem. What do we got to do to fix it, right? I'm always willing to talk about the 500-pound gorilla in the room
right? Some people are, oh, you don't want to talk about this because, whatever. But I decided to get into the fight and make my voice heard. I think I'll start with you. You said Scott McKay, the Patriot Street Fighter. If you know Scott McKay, I met him early on in this situation. He told me himself. He said, Bruce, you need to start your own channel, get your voice out there, because there's people that you can reach that I can't reach. Because everybody here we can all say the same exact thing, but you might hear it differently you might resonate better with the way Lewis says it, even though I'm saying the same thing. So, even though we're different voices out there, that's why it's so important for all of us to step up and make our voices heard. Because there's people that you're planting a seed. They might not, get all hair on fire. Let's all, patriot. Let's all go do this. Rah, rah, rah. 1776 2.0. But you're planting a seed. And a lot of that time when you plant that seed, you may not see the growth or the fruit of that seed, right? But we have to continually push and make people aware, because obviously you're here and you understand what's going on. I was talking with this gentleman. He's understand ever since he came back from Vietnam that our government's no good, and it has been that way for almost from Jump Street, right? From the time that the Constitution was signed, it wasn't very long after that corruption and greed and all that different type of stuff started to seep in, and yeah, exactly.
That's right.
So I mean,
we go all the way back to 1871, really. But you're right.
Things have been, slowly going downhill, and because of just to make it plain, the evil, I call they're Luciferian. They're just evil in that sense. They have obfuscated and twisted and slowly, like I don't know if you heard the analogy about like a lion. You take a lion or an elephant, either one, and you put them on a chain, and you take one link of the chain out at a time. I mean, slowly they don't have no place to go. You can take the chain completely off and they won't go nowhere, right? That's what they have been doing to us as humanity, not just here in the United States, but globally, right? They've been slowly taken away. They're masters at manipulation. They're spellcasters, wordsmiths, and we've been tricked, brainwashed, MK Ultra, whatever you want to programmed, however you want to label that, to trust these institutions, right? That the people that we thought had our best interest at heart, when we go and we vote, every 2 years or every 4 years, when we go and do that they have our best interest at heart. They're our representatives. Rapidly finding out that's not the case. Most of them, I would say, most of them are, corrupt, bought for, being blackmailed or something, so they're doing the bidding of other people besides the people in their local communities that have allegedly elected them to go represent them at a even local, state, federal level. So now we're understanding this, more and more people, I believe, are, there's more and more disclosure and this different things coming out. One of the things that I talk about a lot is, everybody wants to, put Trump on this pedestal. He's a great guy. He's done a great job, but he's just a person, just like you and me. But I liken him, and I say this all the time, ad nauseum, I liken him to Toto in The Wizard of Oz when they were in the Emerald City. Toto's the one that went and pulled the curtain back, and you seen the little guy back there pulling the levers. That's what Trump has done with the media, almost for fake news, fake news, fake news, fake news. And then once you start to question things and you start to look, you're like, hey, that's not true. That's not reality. And I've lived that when, as a perfect example, January 6th. I was there. But what the government says happened, the media says happened, is not what happened at all, right? So I lived it, so I see that stuff, and you can't believe it. So once the curtains pulled back or the scales come off of your eyes, you're able to see, some form of the corruption and the lies and the BS that's been going on our entire lives. You can't unsee it, right? So we have two choices then. We can just say, F it, and then, just go on living our lives. Because if we didn't, Lewis and I talked about this earlier today and many other times, if we weren't paying attention to what's going on, didn't dig in a little bit, then you could go and live your life normally and not know all the lies, the BS, the corruption, all that different stuff that's going on, other than, gas and milk and eggs, everything's more expensive, right? But we've been programmed. Hey, yeah, that's things. Time goes on, things get more expensive. We just have to deal with it. No, that's crap. That's not the truth. So we're pushing. That's what doing this event, and unity is the key to taking down this. I call them on my show Luciferian asshats. The Luciferian asshats who are running controlling the people, media, ruling elites who have their boot on the neck of humanity for so very long. If we, the people, unite, like Lewis' shirt says, we the people are the plan. If we the people unite, everybody probably seen the meme, the picture with a bunch of people bent over and there's a game board on your backs and the ruling elites are playing the game. If we just stand up, the game is over.
Yep.
Right. So that's why we're pushing for the unity now. And this is a divine thing, and we'll let Lewis expand on this more. But we were months ahead of unity when Trump did the unity thing with Robert Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard. Now there's a big unity message that's coming out of that camp. We were planning this unity tour months before that happened, so we're ahead of the game. We're in God's path. This is where we need to be, what we need to do to be able to make a difference. You talked about your daughter. Our family's the first ones we want to have, say. Then we, expand out, and hopefully that ripple effect. If we get one person, that if I can affect one person with what I say, do, or acting crazy, some of the stuff I wear. If I can have one person say, "Hey, I think I need to look into some of this stuff." That's all I want. Just start asking questions, and we're not looking for some group think, everybody to believe the same thing. I'm all. That's how this country was developed, is through difference of opinions, and we hash them out because of the way that the societal people running things and kind of pushing us along this path. Nowadays, if you have a divergent viewpoint, you're misogynist, you're just blah blah. Conspiracy theorists, exactly.
No, but now we're a conspiracy factualists.
Right.
Right. It's changed a little bit, hasn't it? So Bruce, let's go around real quick, since this is very intimate. I like this. Let's just have more of a conversational, because I would like to get to know what's exactly going on, what's motivated everybody to not just be here, but just show up in general, because Bruce and I talk about this all the time. There's such a huge apathy in the country. And I have unfortunately a theory that I don't believe everybody's going to stand up until it hits their pocketbook directly. So when the real estate market crashes, the stock market crashes, the dollar's completely down the toilet, which is going to happen fairly soon, I believe, then everybody will snap out of it and they go, oh, well, now it affects me directly. What's going on, right? Where they don't want to pay attention now. Right. And it could be too late at that point. So that being said, if we can go around and ask, like, what are your thoughts, so on and so forth, and what's motivating you to try to make a difference, or even show up where some people don't. What's your name? Hi, Terry. Lewis Herms. Nice to meet you. Can we get a mic on her, or just? Oh, you don't want a mic? Well, they have to hear it. Okay. Oh, cool. Nicely. It's just so they can hear you.
Yeah, go ahead and hold it up as close as you can.
Okay. So we started in researching about 4 years ago, I guess, at the advice of our financial advisor, who had learned a lot of things. And I think it became our full-time. We were both retired, so it became our full-time job. We've watched just about everybody at this point.
It's almost an obsession after you start to learn it, isn't it?
It is, yeah. We started with, the ones, the Charlie Ward, Simon Parks.
Yeah.
I think Nicholas Vinyamin was one that we started with. So anyway, we grew through that.
Janet Osbard.
Actually, that was our very first
That
study.
was mine too.
And
yeah.
for me, what happened, somebody sent me that I didn't even really know.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, how did I get that? Anyways, that's really what started, actually. You're right. But anyway, as far as apathy goes, for us, we started trying to tell everybody, and maybe we were a little too enthusiastic and started at things that we should have taken.
I call it truth
slower.
barfing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even, best friends, I mean, now they think we're crazy, but I think if 4 years ago, they would have seen some of that happen, then they would have become more interested. Now they just think we're crazy and they, do their own thing and they're not interested. So I think that happened with almost everybody that we started waking up. Now you're afraid to because it's been so long. I don't want to look foolish to some more people.
Well, here's the good news. We're finding a sea change in at least people being open to the conversation now where they weren't open to it 4 years ago. So like if you say, something crazy, something's weird going on, and people are like, yeah, I know, right? And that didn't even happen 4 years ago. So at least we're starting to bridge that gap where people are like, okay, we know something's wrong. They just don't know what is wrong. And the key is, and I say this often, so what I've been teaching for years ad nauseum, as Bruce would say, is instead of truth barfing on everybody, because what happens is when we truth barf and we just give them all the information, like somebody doesn't know anything, and then so Hollywood's all on adrenochrome, right? And they're like, what did they just say? And they freak out. They're like, what are you talking about, right? Yeah, they're all a bunch of devil worshipers. The problem with that is, although it's most likely true in many, many cases, people that are not aware of that's too much input for them at that time. So they completely reject you outright. Now you're crazy. Now they don't want to talk to you about any of that stuff. And it could be years and years and years. So if we acclimate people to the truth slower, like a fish, when you put it in water, you have them slowly acclimate to the temperature of the water, right? Their surroundings. It's much more powerful in most cases, unless you're my wife, because my wife is a hairdresser and she sits in her chair. She's so good that they're never going to leave her, and she just pounds the information into their head. Now they're coming back to her. Oh, you know that thing you said? Yep, that's right. You know that thing about all the chemicals in our food? Yep, that's right. So she has a benefit that nobody else has, right? She's got them locked down, and she's so good that they're like, well, I can't go anywhere else, so I just have to put up with her for an hour. Right. But she says a lot of them are coming around, which is beautiful. So what I teach though is if you're not a awesome hairdresser and can put a seatbelt on them and lock them down in their chair, what I like people to think is a little differently. And I love, my favorite analogy is in 9/11. So, and then we have to ask questions. So I would mention to somebody, I'd say, yeah, so, they may say something about 9/11, or we'll bring up the conversation. I'll say, did you know in 9/11 that there was another tower that fell, Tower 7? Many people don't even know that. Don't even know that it fell. And they go, yeah. I go, yeah, it fell, sure enough. And did you know that it was on fire for, several hours before it fell? And you know why that's weird? And they'll say, why is that? Here, come join us. We have a seat for you. And we'll say, you know why that's weird? And they'll say, why is that? I'll go, because the towers that fell were over 100 yards away from Tower 7, and there was a building between them, so no debris from them took those out. Isn't that weird? They're like, did that really happen? I go, you know what the craziest thing is that in Great Britain, 20 minutes before it fell, they reported that it fell. And then people, did that all happen? Yeah, here, let me show you some links, blah, 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 blah. That's the way we can acclimate people to the conversation, with little teeny questions like that, something you're passionate about, something that you know about. And I've seen, and other people have reported back, they have a lot of success with that slow acclimation. And we got to plant those seeds and walk away too. And that's the key, is having enough faith that God's going to do the rest of the work, right? So we'll plant a little seed where it gets them going, that aha moment. And then sometimes it's even better not to give them any more information and walk away from it completely. So they're craving more information. So they either research, or they'll come back to you and they'll say, okay, let's talk about it a little bit more. And there, now you have somebody that you're maturating through the process. Now, it takes patience. We don't want to be patient because we want this to end now, right? But if we really think about the history of what has happened, the New World Control is not a new thing. It's been going on over 1,000 years. 1,000 years. So for anybody to think that we're going to end this in maybe 3 or 4 years, they probably should rethink things. Because do you think somebody that's had 1,000 years of control over us is just going to hand it over to us overnight. There's no way they're going to do it. They're going to fight tooth and nail. Now, do I think there's great things happening in the background? I do. I really, really do. I mean, I just had a recent report. I was very happy that I'll just say military. There's a military operation that actually just saved almost 1,000 kids on the West Coast, right? But to show you how there's still a deep state battle is they put them on the base. They couldn't house them, so they had to put them in an independent location. And with a day or two, CPS was in there and completely grabbed all of the kids and put them into the system, right? So it was good and bad. So that tells you there's a battle going on. There's a fight that is still actively going on. So when everybody tells me, it's the white hats are completely in control, I'm like, okay, come on. So take your little froggy mask off, stop eating your popcorn, and really pay attention, because I've been down to the border and I can tell you daily people are crossing border. I see them crossing the border. I've interviewed them, right? And I get reports I got a report just yesterday. I thought they saved her and at the last second somebody got to her, right? So this stuff is real and still happening. But there is really great stuff happening also, because is anybody familiar with the Chevron deference decision?
Yes.
Okay. I think that's probably the most powerful Supreme Court decision we've had in almost my lifetime. Even more powerful than Roe versus Wade. The reason why is because Roe versus Wade did what it's supposed to do constitutionally. They sent it back to the states. They eliminated it and they said, states get to make the decisions on what's going on. Now, that may not make everybody happy, but that is constitutionally correct, right? Chevron deference completely emasculated the deep state. Completely. The challenge is, and is everybody familiar with what that is? And for you online, I'll just explain real quick. The Chevron deference was in the 80s, it was set up, and the goal was to streamline decisions that bureaucrats can make for us under the guise that it's easier and it's going to be better for we the people. But as always, it got completely manipulated, and then it was taxation on everything. They're trying to enforce mandates because they think they have the power and all this. So what that does is getting rid of that decision brings it back to every time they want to make a major decision, it needs to go through Congress and actually get voted on. So they can't just say, you know what, we want to tax that fisherman just because. Or we want to charge you more for this, or we need to put this control on you or this mandate. So none of that can be effective anymore. The only challenge is it hasn't been challenged yet. Somebody's going to have to step up and challenge, which means somebody's going to have to, there has to be an entity, a 3-letter organization, probably an NGO or some bureaucrat that's going to have to try to impose something on we the people. And then they go, nope, can't do that now because Chevron deference, and let that go through and up to the Supreme Court and get a final decision. And that is going to be beautiful, right? So there are great things happening. So we have to think, and what I like to tell people is both things can be true at the same time. You could have amazing things happening at the same time that there's a lot of crap out there that needs to be fixed, right? It's not all peaches and cream, and it's not all hell water, right? It's just not the way it is. So the beautiful thing right now, though, is if I believe, maybe you guys can tell me differently, but I believe, Bruce believes, and other people that we travel so much and talk to the people, is people are coming around, people that never would before. In fact, see the shirt right here? It just says, we the people are the plan, right? I was on the way here, not here, but on the tour. I had a layover, which I hate layovers. Honey, hi, let's not do that again. I don't like layovers at all, right? It's nice if you're sitting in a lounge or something, you know what I mean? But what happened is, so I walked into the area, and she's going like this. She goes, it's not my fault. I know that's what she's saying right now. She's going, because I think I probably approved it. I'm like, okay, let's just do it. But I'm not into layovers because I'm like efficiency, like get to where I want to get on the plane, get off the plane, do all this stuff. So we ended up at DFW as the layover, right? Or I was by myself. And I was in the lounge for a while, and then I walked out to get on the plane, and people saw my shirt. And one person came up, he goes, oh, cool. And we started talking, right? He goes, what's that all about? And I said, well, here's my organization, Screw Big Gov. He goes, wow, let's talk. And then he had all this information about Florida, how he helped Pauline and Luna, and he's very active. And somebody else, Over here says, oh my God, this is what we do. And I'm part of this Patriot organization. And another person, by the time we were finished in about 15, 20 minutes, I had 6 people surrounding me and I almost didn't get on the plane because we were talking, right? But they all, just because of wearing this shirt, had conversations that we never would have had before. And this is why I tell people all the time, wear something that tells people what's going on, because you'll be so surprised. You're not on an island. We think we're on an island. We're not. So when I wear this or my Screw Big Gov shirt, it's constant. And I'm not asking you to buy anything. In fact, the gift we're bringing you is we brought you these shirts for free today. So the idea is when you get out there with something and just kind of display something, whether it's a hat or a shirt like that, it opens up and suddenly you're having conversations with people that you never would have had before. And you also find out you're not on an island. Here's why we think we're on an island, by the way. I think we have to agree with this. The Marxist left is a hell of a lot louder than we are. Would you agree with that? So what happens is their 5% outscreams our 90%. That's just the way it works. So therefore, people assume that they have the numbers. They don't have the numbers. We're just more polite. And honestly, I think it's time to be less polite. I think that's where we are now, or we're going to lose everything, right? So
your shirt, that's really a great idea, because in my age group, which is a couple of generations beyond you, there are a lot of people that don't do social media at all.
Right. Yeah.
And so that kind of thing I could see would bring in more conversation than, because they don't look at anything, they don't even really know how. So.
And the conversation is the most important thing. So this probably will be the lightest showing we have at one of these events, but it's okay. You know why? Because there's going to be some connection that's made here, and it may not be anything Bruce and I say. It may be something else somebody else says, or we have an aha moment, and then there's that aha moment when that pebble jumps in the water and it ripples out and becomes such more important. Because I believe God has brought us here to this location for a reason. And it doesn't matter if one of you are here. It's just important as if there was 1,000 here. And it really is. And I love this guy to death, by the way. And I'm starting to love this guy back here too, but we're just starting to get to know him. But Bruce and I have such a passion for we the people, right? I can get this guy to cry in 5 seconds if I start talking about we the people. No, because he's so passionate about taking care of business and getting we the people, because we have no future for our children and grandchildren and their grandchildren, right? So we're fighting for everything that follows. That's why we can't just say, I need it done now, because we have to do it right. If somebody flew in on that white Pegasus 4 years ago when we wanted them to, we'd be right back here in a few years, because we hadn't figured it out. We hadn't learned the lesson. We haven't felt the pain. The other people that are out there that don't know yet, right? And that's unfortunately why I was saying earlier, it's probably going to take a financial collapse to push them over the edge, where they're going to say, okay, what's going on? At least what's going on? And guess what? That's where you, and you are. When they say what's going on, you're going to have to be there to explain to them, well, let me tell you. Because it's funny, when they get desperate, that's when they start to be open to conversation. It does, doesn't it? Yeah, because we've been conditioned through general education, right, and our governments and the media, right, that you do good in school, which is really, if you know, school generally is just memorization now. It's not education at all. We figured that out, right? It's indoctrination. So we get indoctrinated in school, and then we go and get a job, and we're really lucky. Why are we lucky? Because you guys get 2 days off a week. Woo! They just had Labor Day, right? Which is a celebration of taxpayers. Think about it. We're going to give you an extra day off. You're so lucky. Look at what the government does for you, right? But we've been conditioned to think that's all awesome. It's not. I can tell you, because I've been running businesses for forever, right? I can work a 3-12 or a 3-14, 14 hours, 3 days, right? And be extraordinarily productive. And if I wanted to, I don't do it now because of the people. I can go snorkeling or fishing for another 4 days. And I'm more productive than somebody that works an 8 to 5, right? Guess what? That's because it would give me freedom. My pineal gland would open up. I have better discernment doing that stuff. So we've all been intentionally pushed down and pushed down because what we've been bred to be is workers for the deep state cabal. That's really what we've been bred to be, right? Now, is having a good work ethic bad? No. In fact, I would suggest that you'd have a better work ethic if you didn't have a thumb on you constantly controlling you and telling you what to think, how to think, how many hours to work, and gracing us with those 2 days on a Saturday and a Sunday. Does that make sense? So very important that we fight back. Bruce, I'm going to get their gifts and maybe go around and we can have conversations. Thank you for sharing.
Say again.
So with your, what, is there any particular event that's happened, or what was the catalyst or the genesis
What's that
for
for you?
your situation? Everybody, because when people like, everybody learns, something different. Maybe there's something you'll hear, someone.
I know I have them.
Story and you're like, and there's.
Yeah, there are some, and I'm a large, so I put it in here.
Actually,
is.
when I started searching, I already had some ideas of things that I knew were not right, but
Does that
that
have the
didn't
logo on the
really
side?
enter
I wanna
in
make sure
because
it
I
has
was
the
busy
embroidery.
working,
Yep, good,
doing a
good.
job and staying busy. And my sister came up with this thing one day and she said, you know, they're saying JFK Jr. is alive. And I said, oh, you're crazy. And so I started researching, and that's where I started. And that's been something that's been in the background the whole time, but all this other stuff I've learned along the way.
Right.
And then whenever I started hearing things about Disney, and I heard this and the Adrenochrome and Hollywood and all this stuff, and I started sharing it with friends. And of course, they didn't want to listen. But now that the time has passed, there's some that'll come up to me now and say, well, you know, that stuff you talked about Disney, that's true.
What size?
I said, yeah, it's true.
You think I
And what it is, I think,
You
is
know,
the
they got a
world
small
has
and a
gotten
large. Let's see
so
if I got a medium for you.
indoctrinated with jobs and making money that no go-to blessing, because it gave me all
Looks
this
like they're all
time
large.
to do my research and not worry about a job. And I think that most of the people that have.
Well, these are very,
learned
very
to
stretchy,
come
by
up
the way.
with
So
these,
you want to
that's where it comes to with them.
see if that
is
works
that
for you.
They finally got time to
That's
look
stretch,
a
you
little
know.
bit. But I'm in sales, and every house I go into, I mean, all they see is the news. That's all.
Size?
And I'll drop my little hints here and there, and I know that I drop a lot of seeds, but most people are not wanting to hear it. Like my best friend, her husband is, I don't think he was necessarily Biden, but he was definitely not Trump. So when I told him JFK Jr. was alive, I mean, he was really upset. So now it's a joke between he and I, and he said, well, when JFK Jr. shows up, said, I'm going to see things a little different maybe.
So he's waiting for that full on.
Yeah, he's awake, but he didn't want to be awake.
Right.
So I just know that God has led us to where we've all been, what we picked up, like the plan to save the world. I mean, that I've shared with I don't know how many people. And I know that they've listened, but they don't really know what they've listened to until it starts happening.
Well, that happens a lot. You know, you might tell somebody, share a seed, drop a seed, drop some information, ask them a question, and in there, they might not tell you, speak it verbally, that they believe or they understand, but in their head,
They heard it.
it sticks in there. And so when something else happens, somebody else comes along and drops a little seed in there, like, hey, she told me this, a couple of years ago, this guy said that maybe I should look. So it is a process for some people. And I love the quote. I believe it's a Mark Twain quote. Oh, lovely. The Mark Twain quote, it's easier to fool people than to convince them they've been fooled. There's a lot of
Oh, so true.
the psychological cognitive dissonance that people receive. They don't want to. It's a barrier. It's a wall. And these seeds, every time you drop something about JFK Jr. being alive or Building 7 on 9/11 and a locomotive, and nothing's happening there. And then you get that label. You get You think, then you pull back, say, oh, what I'm doing is not working, right? I'm not seeing that fruit. But we have to change our mindset. I'm huge on the mindset stuff. We got to have that proper mindset regardless of what's going on around us. We have to continue to push on and do what we do and, be led by this, develop. I talk about all the time, how we get through this is connections, right? And the number one connection that's most important is the connection with our Creator, right? Because that's the ultimate source of truth.
Yes.
That's what's going to open us up. We get these, I get, people call them downloads or vision, whatever you want to see. At your intuition, your gut check, that discernment. I call it my bullshit detector. I can listen to I can listen to somebody or, read an article or something. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's bullshit. My bullshit detector. So, you develop this stuff, and that's only comes from God, because that's the ultimate source of truth. And the second connection is you got to be connected to yourself. Because we all have issues. We're all been indoctrinated. We all have different, maybe past traumas or different things. We need to peel back those layers of the onion and really find out who we are, find our strength, find our purpose, our passion. What gets us all jacked up? What gets the goosebumps flowing when you hear, when you hear somebody talk about something? Some people it's the children. A lot of people it's the children,
Yeah.
right? Other people, it might to be a financial thing or a health thing or, whatever your button is. Every person is a little bit different. And so we need to walk in that stuff. So we're getting connected to yourself and then doing what we do on these tours and when we do in the live stream, getting connected with other people. We need to build our tribe and unite. Whether, there's 4 or 5 people here now, but, next time there's going to be 50 people, right?
Well, tens of thousands of people online too. So yeah, you guys are famous now. You didn't know that, did you? So yeah, we have a huge online audience. Speaking of your online audience, by the way, VerityMetals.com helps us make this very possible. So even though my wife and I go in the whole big time, they actually help part of it, a big, huge chunk of it. So I appreciate Matt at Verity Metals and VerityMetals.com. If you guys are thinking about moving money out of cash or out of an IRA or a 401k, or if you just want to hold on to silver, Matt's the guy to talk to. He's very honest. He'll direct you in the right direction and help you protect your investments also. So good guy. Yeah, it's smart. You have to do that, right? So I need to give a plug to him because I was looking at this logo and he does so much for us and he should get a lot more credit for what he does. I mean, these things are very expensive and he's picking up almost half of the bill and then my wife and I will figure out the rest, right? But it's I'm happy to be here and having conversations with you guys. So just in general, what's on your mind? And not that I have a clue, but any questions for us, or what's frustrating you? And maybe there are some solutions out there because we have seen so many people, tens of thousands of people traveling and talk to so many people until I mean, our ears are bleeding sometimes, but it's in a good way, right? It's just we have heard so many stories and learned so many things. We've been in cities where they've had a lot of success at accomplishing some things, and we're like, okay, and we've learned, okay, so you can do things in that way. So we even know now we know how to approach a board of supervisors, how to approach a school board, how to talk to a sheriff. There's what you can do in your community. So a lot of these lessons we learn, and if we're going to be very transparent, we did something called Truth Tour. Was it? The boot camp was 3, right? Truth Tour 3, the boot camp. And honestly, I think we went in thinking that we were going to teach the people, and we were the end, and we ended up getting the education because people in certain areas were doing it a hell of a lot better than we thought it could be done, right? So it was pretty exciting for us, and we turned on a dime within I think the 3rd day. We said, okay, we need to do more listening and less talking on these, and it was interesting, wasn't it? I learned a lot from that, and I really appreciated how open people are, and we were open to being corrected too. We're like, hey, we could do it this way. No, we tried that, but here, let's do it this way, right? This works. Fantastic. So
that's one of the things is that I don't think anybody, if you're here and you've already been through taking down a tyrannical government overreach, look, anybody done that before and know how to do it? No. This is all new, right? We're trying to figure this stuff out.
It's real. Where my wife has a lot of traction is when she's talking to people, she always has something on her phone, right? And she says, well, you know, they do the porn in the schools, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, no, they don't do that. Oh, yeah? Boom, here's the article. Or boom, here you go. And look at that was on your regular news. This is on a regular newspaper. This is local. Here's the picture. Here's this. Here's this. So she has her ammunition always loaded in her phone. And it's the funniest thing. Great example. And I'll tell everybody here, this is, there's only 2 genders. I know, it's crazy. It's crazy. There's just 2. I did a lot of research on this, and I could just find 2. I know it's wacky talk, right? But go ahead and Google, guys. Go do this today. Google, how many genders are there? First one that comes up is 72. Right on Google.
So like, I had some surgery.
Yeah.
How do you get so?
And it's on the forms you got to fill out when you go in to have surgery in the hospital. You
Right.
have those choices now.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, so I think it's amazing. In fact, a friend just told me this. He's watching right now. He just said he went into the doctor, right? The doctor. And they asked, what gender are you? Right? Or would you like prefer to declare a gender? And I'm like, dude, how the hell can a doctor work on you if you're not working on the right gender? Right? How does that work exactly? If he walked in there, he goes, I'm a female, right? Okay, let me check your ovaries. Oh, we got a problem. You don't have any. Like, how does that work, right? But they're trying to be so politically correct with their BS, and they play into this. But that's the Marxist agenda. Slowly, they chip away and chip away and chip away until we're doing things that are just so ridiculous. A man goes in there and he's like, well, if you want to be treated as a woman from a health perspective, we got your back. How does that work? It doesn't work. It's actually impossible. There's a whole nother set of diseases for women than there are for men. I heard that y'all have different organs than we have. Is that crazy? You know, so when you hear this stuff, it's maddening. I do think we're making traction, but the key is I like what my wife does is she just has the ammunition. And yeah, guys, really Google that yourself. Google how many genders are there, and they'll tell you 72. So we can trust Google for sure.
Funny, it's, just having ammunition, to put out to people reminds me of there's a couple of clips as we're talking about this from, I think it's from the Kindergarten Cop with Arnold Schwarzenegger. The little kid stands up. Boys have a penis and girls have a vagina. That's it. And then the other one was, we'll go back in the day, Mr. Rogers sang a song about only boys can be daddies, only girls can be mommies. There's a whole song. You can find the clip out there. It's on YouTube still. God knows why they kept that up there and taken down whatever.
That's propaganda.
Viewpoint, unpopular as it might be, is that it's trendy in the schools today, right? It's, back when I was in school, there was bell bottoms, or, afros, or everybody had to have a Walkman or something like that. So now it's trendy for kids, I did say, I'm a lesbian. My granddaughter, was talking about lesbian stuff, and she's 11 years old. This is because it's trendy. They want to be cool. They want to fit in. This is the indoctrination. And if you can, anybody, get your kids out of public schools, do homeschooling. There's co-ops. There's tons, many. You don't have to pay for some crazy amount of money for some private school, but there are ways if you want to save your children to get them out of the public education system until that thing can be either eliminated, revamped, whatever. Because the current public education system is completely garbage. That 100%. Department, that would be, if I was king, yeah.
Totally unconstitutional.
Most of them.
I think all 3-letter agencies.
Most all,
In
yeah.
fact, the screw big gov is because it's screw being governed by these 3-letter agencies. So we have big food, Department of Agriculture. I'm sorry. So we have 1,000 more chemicals in the United States in our food than you do even in the UK. I mean, that just tells you, right? But they allow these things that they're banned in another country. they're like banned. They're like, you cannot put
Illegal.
these here.
Yeah.
And
FDA.
yeah, and you would get in trouble. But here,
They're gassed.
Go
they're
ahead and do it, right.
gaslighting you, right? The FDA, the people who are supposed to be looking out for us, consumers, and the stuff they allow in the food here in the United States, like he said, many of these ingredients are banned and illegal in other countries, but they're here in America, they're gassed. They're generally accepted as safe. Generally accepted as safe. There's never been no studies on them. You can look at it, if anybody's done any traveling, been to Mexico or play, look at a bottle of ketchup is a perfect example. A bottle of ketchup in Mexico and a bottle of ketchup.
4 ingredients versus 16.
It's Coca-Cola.
Crazy.
Coca-Cola. The ingredients in Coca-Cola in Mexico are different than the ingredients in the Coca-Cola here in the United States.
Well, in Mexico, they actually advertised real raw sugar. So they're literally telling you we don't use that crazy stuff.
Corn syrup.
We don't use the crazy stuff. So it's all we believe, and then I want to get to some of this, and I want to actually see what we could do if there's anything we could do to help or have a conversation about what's going on here, right, in Alabama. But we believe, or I'll talk for myself, that I believe that we're going to have to rip down about 90% of the infrastructure that we see right now that we know government. And when we rebuild, I think we should just rebuild that 10% properly, because the reality is we never needed a large government. We weren't intended to have large government. If you really read what the founding fathers wanted, I mean, it's great that President Trump is out there all the time right now, but the reality is the president was barely ever supposed to be seen. You're supposed to hear from the president, and he would be written up in the disaster. And sometimes some dignitary meeting that would go on. That was it. That's all our U.S. president was supposed to be involved in. What they've done is, over the years, intentionally, they've made him more important and more important and more important and more important and more important. So we think the president of the United States is the end all be all. Why do they do that? Because that's how they can rule by proxy totalitarianism. So we don't know it, but that's what's going on, right? We have a figurehead all the way at the top that has all the power. Look at all the executive orders that are written. Now, it seems like Trump's using some of them to our advantage, and he's using their weapons against him, which is what God said would happen, right? Which is amazing. But I have a feeling after it's done, we're going to have to scrap it all. And you really shouldn't have to hear from a president very often. That's weird. We're conditioned to think it's correct, but that's not the way the founding fathers had it written up from the beginning. It was all local, local, local. Everything you can do local is more important than anything that happens in the state, anything that happens in the country, and anything that happens in the world. Because when we work hard local, I always say the micro fixes the macro. We get our plan together and we get our shit together, I say, here, right, locally, and then it spreads out and then others. And then that's really how you get a good foundation, and that's how things work really well. We focus on the Fed so much, but the Fed is supposed to be inconsequential. So really, we've been conditioned to pay attention to the Fed when all we really need to do is pay attention locally and make things great. And then they have trouble infiltrating us when we have a solid foundation here. So let's segue into what's going on here in all you from Alabama, all 5 of you? Okay. So what's going on here in Alabama that you think is corrupt or can be or fixed, or something happening here that you can think could be a lot different than maybe we don't notice because we're in other states?
The main things here is actually praying for our education system. I have a lot of people in my family that are actually in the teaching profession, and most of them are grammar school. And I have been amazed at the stories I hear of how things are infiltrated with kindergarten and first grade and second grade. And my daughter's a Christian and she prays. And we've really got to keep it in the back of our mind that we pray for our teachers and principals and everybody, because God has certain ones in there now to make a difference, and they're trying to get rid of them. I mean, there's things that come up all the time that we know that it's an attack by the enemy to get them out of there. And if they do, then the school system's going to be even worse. So we've got to pray and keep the ones in there that are good people that love God and love kids and want to make a difference. And, you know, the best I can tell right now is that everything in hell is against them to get them out of there.
Yeah.
And, you know, if they force the issue and do pray over their kids and with other teachers and all that, but they could be fired just for that very reason.
Yep.
And thank you. There's a lot of power in prayer. If you notice right here, it says everybody can make a difference. And one of it is right there says praying, because it's extraordinarily important. So if the key is to try to motivate people, you know, in a prayer group or whatever it is, specifically for the children, because ultimately this is just an attack on the kids. This is what this is. Yeah, this is exactly what it is. Did you have a question?
No, I was just asking. Is that here in Dothan?
Near. Not actually in Dothan, but near.
You know, the thing that bothers me the most is elections.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Election. Yep.
and Georgia is.
Well, Georgia's okay. So here's a little clue, just so you know why Georgia's so bad. Where the elections are jacked up the most are anybody stop watching Fox News. Yeah. No, I get it. That's the key. Yeah. I used to watch CNN, so I knew what was going on because I would just turn it 180 degrees. Whatever they said, I know it's exactly opposite. It's easy.
I have to watch The View.
Oh.
I mean,
Right. You have to take some type of digestive enzyme to get through the show, though, right?
Back to what you just said, we need to know our enemy.
Yeah, we have to know.
And
We
I
have to learn.
listen to Communist News Network.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To see what they're putting out and how they're putting it out.
The key, though, is if you're awake, completely awake to it. So I know people that are pretty awake when they watch the news. They start to believe it still. They get MK Ultra because that's what it is. And they start falling back into the pattern. So for those people, I say, guys, take it in a small dose because a lot of people can get indoctrinated. If you're really strong in your headset, the key I have found, and Robert and I do, I think, a brilliant job on this. We do the news 2 or 3 times a week. And what we do, and Bruce knows this, is we've made a conscious decision to mock all the news and all the deep state politicians. So when they say something, we find the humor in it and we just mock it and just throw it right back in their face. And it's very powerful to do. So if you're laughing at it while you're watching CNN you got to be laughing at The View. I don't think you can get five seconds of good content out of The View. Right. But so
You do have to be strong for sure. That's why in that praying and that I talked about that connection, because if you remember the Matrix, the 4th edition of the Matrix, where Neo gets sucked back into the Matrix, and then because of whatever, it was a love situation. Don't want to get into that right now. But then there's other people who you can get sucked back into the Matrix, or you might be tired, you might be worn out, you might have battle fatigue, the fog of war might be overcoming you, and you're like the guy in, I think it was the first Matrix, who said, "I'm done. I love the taste of steak." So he ratted out, the people. So there's all, we have to be aware of this. They're constant. It's a constant battle all the time. You have to have a strong, like you said, strong mindset to be able to withstand the wiles of the enemy, the arrows and the slings and everything that's coming at you. But yes, we have to be aware of what's going on, have to know our enemy for sure, 100%. And you talked about elections, that I live in Florida, and people put Florida up, it's a gold standard of elections and all this. We just recently had primaries in my county, Pinellas County, Florida. And there was a guy who's done all the data. He's a data geek, done all the research to know that it's not what it seems to be, even though it's important. As we look at the president, that seems to get all the accolades or all the attention.
The Secretary of State.
Oh, they're criminals.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting. I'm not quite sure this is going to freak people out. I'm not quite sure Brian Kemp is as bad as we think he is, because what happened is he was the first one to mention there was an issue with the election, and 48 hours later, they blew his daughter's boyfriend up in a car, and or did they? Right. But I think he got a call. He goes, okay, your daughter's next, would be my guess, right? This is the way they operate. So I'm not saying he isn't bad. I'm just saying you never know, because the deep state, if you step out of line, they're gonna show you immediately what to do. So I don't trust any of them, to be honest with you, but I thought it's less than a coincidence that 48 hours after he made that statement, that kid blows up in the car. Oh, and by the way, he reversed his statement 180 degrees after that. So clear there was a connection there of some sort. It's madness that this is what we're dealing with, but ultimately that's why we say this. And the reason why we have to deal with this is because people have not figured this out, that they all work for us. They all work for us. And people haven't figured that out yet. People have, just because you have a title of governor or secretary of state or board of supervisor person, suddenly it's like, oh, wow. Hi, sir. How are you doing? It's so great. So glad to meet you. Thank you for giving me the time. I'm like, what the fuck? Excuse my language? But they work for us, right? When did we start to have to bow down to these people? They're supposed to say, I would like to be an elected official because I would like to do the work for you. That's what it was supposed to be. The founding fathers have created this whole system. And throughout history, they were supposed to literally humble themselves in front of we the people and say, I'm here at your service. But in now, we've been completely manipulated to go, oh, sir, madam, it's so great to see you. You're amazing. Would you mind having a conversation about this? Like, no, you need to fix the schools, right?
You pay my taxes.
Yeah. Can I please pay my taxes? Will you take the check directly? But we have to change our paradigm 180. We've been conditioned. We, the people, by the way, when I say that, I'm not talking about individually. Some of you are already, I'm sure, fighting back. But we have been conditioned wholesale, right, to bow down to our controllers. Well, that's why they're your controllers, because we submit. If we don't submit, suddenly they lose all their control. The most powerful word in the world is no. It stops dead. I used to work for a company, a very large plumbing company, and they were both. It was co-owned 50-50 by these owners, right? And they thought they had 50-50 control of the company. One guy had all these great ideas and wanted to try this new thing and do this and do this and do this. And the other guy was very conservative, like in the box. I don't ever want to step out of the box, right? So they would go out and people go, oh, you guys co-own the company. They're like, yeah, we share the power of 50-50. It's not true. This guy was always a no, never a yes to any ideas, which means this guy had zero power whatsoever. That's how powerful a no is, right? So no trumps everything else. So we, the people, have to figure out that no is extraordinarily important. We will not do that. No, you cannot do that. No, that's not acceptable. We have to stand up in the face of these controllers and just say, we're done with it. Did you have a question?
The praying thing keeps standing out to me, and I'm thinking, boy, if we could just wake up some ministers, how many people would be hurt? But then they have controllers off.
So
Don't get me on that soapbox.
Yeah. So no, you made a good point though. If how about we say, if the ministers would actually be working for God, amen, right? If they are working for God, actually, instead of for the church. I'll tell a little story, and this is kind of gives you an idea how this whole thing started with the churches and the control and so on and so forth. So back in the day, there was an uprising. When I mean back in the day, I mean hundreds of years ago, there was an uprising where the Protestants were very upset with the Catholic Church. And the reason why is because the Roman Catholic Church was putting the church and the Pope before God, right? So the Protestants, well, yeah. So the Protestants said, guys, that's not cool. You shouldn't be doing that. Can you change it? Put God first. And it's not the way it should be. So they were having a conversation, and they're pretty much like, go away. It wasn't a big deal. But then the Protestants took it to another level, and they used old school technology to print a bunch of flyers and hang them all over the place, saying the Catholic Church is putting the Pope and the church before God, and that's inappropriate, right? So instead of there being a negotiation, what the Pope did is he commissioned Loyola of Ignacio of Loyola to form a little. So their response wasn't, let's have a conversation. They're like, no, clearly to them, the church and the Pope were more important than God. Therefore, we're just going to eliminate anybody that disagrees with that message. It rolls over to the churches today, right? Because what seems to be more important to many, many churches, not all of them, but many churches, is the person at the head of the room, right? The most important thing is we got to get your tithings. We have to get your money, right? We're going to tell you what's in the Bible. Many of them are saying, I will read the Bible to you instead of you going and reading the Bible yourself, because the message can be manipulated. And then the church is the most important thing. Well, that's complete manipulation of what it really is. So and a lot of the indoctrination is to get you to go in a direction that most ends up benefiting the church instead of benefiting the community and benefiting you and your family personally. So I think, in defense of some ministers, I think they don't even know what they're doing. I think they've been taught to do these certain things, and they probably think they're doing the right thing. But ultimately, I'll give my favorite example, and I will tell this every day till I'm blue in the face. My favorite example is Matthew 5:5. Matthew 5:5 is the meek shall inherit the earth. Okay, well, that would be great if everybody understood what the real definition of meek is. What the churches have sold us on is meek is docile. You're chill, you're relaxed, just let things happen. Don't worry, we're going to inherit the earth, right? If you really, really study the origins of meek, it's exactly the opposite. Meek is somebody that stands up for somebody else. Somebody is strong in the face of adversity, right? Did you know Jesus called himself meek? I'm certain when he was flipping over tables, right, and probably cussing, and saying, you guys can't be doing this. I'm sure that he was pretty strong and he was fighting for others. Moses traveled 40 years in the desert. Moses was called meek several times, right? If you find the origin of the word, there's a horse called Prowse that was considered meek, and it was the strongest, most powerful horse, and a protector of people were also called meek. So in the church, we've been intentionally manipulated in many churches, not all churches, to think that we should just sit down, shut up, and be quiet, right? But that helps their agenda. It does nothing for your personal family. It does nothing to serve God, right? So the Bible isn't the issue, in my opinion. It's the manipulation outside of the Bible of the message that's used within the churches. So when we say we got to get more ministers involved, I would agree. I would just like to add something to that. We need to get more righteous ministers involved because they can help with this message. But really, when it comes down to it, Bruce and I, we talk about this all the time, and Andrew could really address this. These are the true temples. If you really read the Bible, these are the temples, are the ones that they're literally talking about this. So, we resonate with God and talk with God directly. It's great to form two or more, and then, God will always be in our presence. But the reality is, I think we should become our own ministers. You know what I mean? And if you want to go change the schools, you want to change the elections, start organizing people, and pray in groups. I think it's just a phenomenal idea. People underestimate the power of prayer. Now, I believe scientifically, if people really put the effort in, I believe scientifically you can find out if you had focus groups where prayer worked for this and prayer worked for healing this and so on and so forth. Nobody's put the effort into doing that, but that's just my belief system. What's that?
So you should be a Presbyterian.
Oh, and I intentionally take absolutely no denomination whatsoever,
Well,
because I connect directly with the Lord and he talks to me directly.
well, I mean, I was being sarcastic when I
Right.
said.
Oh,
that.
right.
Because, I mean, I am a Presbyterian right now. I mean,
You get the-
I'm married into it, you know?
Yeah.
That's the only way you get Presbyterians. is
Yeah,
marry into
that's
it.
right, right.
But the pastors and preachers, not all, most are the CEOs of the corporate entity, the 501c3 corporate entity that they call the church. And it's not, the church isn't a physical building. This is the church. Where I'm at, where two or more together, good. The ecclesia, where people, get together, we hash things out. I have a different view on prayer. Many people talk in prayer and they're begging God to do something. I think when he was on the cross, he said, it's finished. It's already done. We have everything we already need. We just need to walk in the power that he's already given us. But we don't need to beg God to do something. He's already done it. So yeah. No, I know her. We've had her on tour. Yeah. Yeah, Lena. No, she's fantastic. Another person, and if anybody watching, Ethan Lucas. The way he breaks down a lot of the biblical stuff, I resonate more with, because I was brought up or got saved, and came this close to being a children's pastor in the corporate church. But then once I got involved in the leadership and I saw the red tape and the backbiting and hypocrisy and all the garbage, I was like, no, this ain't for me. I actually walked away from the physical church building. But nowadays, since my awakening, since I've started developing that connection, my spirituality, I feel more connected. I feel more in tune, with what's going on in the God's plan for my life than I have in my entire life. But I take responsibility for that own stuff. I don't look for somebody else, like you talk, to tell me what the Bible says, to tell me what to believe. Because you can take and you can twist, you can take a scripture here, and you can twist it and, dress it up, and they can make it say something that it's not even close to what, the intention for it. So, that's my viewpoint. But if we take more responsibility and more action rather than being meek and sitting, God, what are we going to do with all these elections? You got to do something. You got to move on these people. No, us, we the people need to get off our arses and make that stuff happen in the name of God, moving forward in truth and justice and righteousness. That's how we get through this thing. And that's why that there is so important, the praying, manifesting, and living without fear.
One of the best things Trump ever said was, they're not after me, it's you they're after. And that's true.
Yep.
They know we can make a difference if we unite. And
Right.
Well, Trump said he handed it back to we the people,
Yeah,
but we didn't catch it. Right.
no,
Literally in his inauguration, he says, and with all the military behind him, he says, we've handed it back to we the people. And we're like, cool, let's party. That's what it was about. It was handed.
People don't understand.
No, it was handed back to we the people because we've got your backs. Now go to work is what it was about.
don't get me wrong, I do love Donald Trump, and I've been to as many rallies as I could go to. But my take on it is that people are leaning to him as their savior right now, and he is not our savior.
Exactly.
Jesus Christ is our savior, and we've got to lean on God to get us through this, or we're not going to make it.
You know what's interesting is I believe Donald Trump would tell you the same thing. Yeah, and as a lot of people said, they go, "You support Donald Trump, but you're so hard on him." I go, because they work for us, right? So when he, I do believe he'll find a way back into office. I say publicly. There may be something else going on already. How can you help us solve the election issue? What are we doing about this? What are we doing about? And people, you're really going to do that? I go, absolutely. And guess what? I think he's going to want that. He's going to welcome it. He's going to go, come on, bring it. Yeah, let's do it. I believe that's the character this man has. He wants, right. He wants somebody to address him that way, like man to man. Okay, can I help? President Trump, can I help? Let's do this. Let's do this. I think he's messing with people when he always repeats the story of somebody talking and they always come up to him, sir, right? I think he's showing you that that's really not necessary, right? I believe it's a reverse psychology he's using there, because he always saying, they're always like, sir. So you notice how many times he says that all the time? I think, now I'll call him Mr. President, and I say, would you rather have me call you Don? And if he says, yeah, let's do it. And then we'll have that conversation. Right. But we cannot wait on somebody to save us. But if I keep saying this, Bruce, you say this all the time, if somebody saved us, we're going to be right back in the shithole in a few years.
You got to have skin in the game.
Right. You have to have skin in the game. Absolutely. Do you want to?
That's when they lose their money. That's when the skin starts coming off. Just peels off.
Yep.
So I hear there's breaking news. What's the breaking news? Do you know? Let's see it. Ask Robert. Robert can play it right now. I'm going to get Robert on the phone right now. And I'm getting multiple text messages on this.
Everybody's looking.
Day after the day of amnesty.
Well, then,
Well, I'm not going to go
while
there.
he's doing that,
That's
I
too
will
deep.
toss this out there so you guys to start thinking about.
What's the breaking news? I'm getting
One of
text
the
messages.
biggest
blowing
things
up.
that we can do is start. Is there any patriot groups,
Oh,
other people
okay.
of like-minded nature in your neighborhood?
My what?
Oh,
Okay, my wife said
10
people
block
leave it
square,
the
all torqued off about the masking stuff, and they started meeting this lady's house. What can we do? So we got to go stay our kids to the school board, right? And it grew and grew and grew. Now our Patriot group, it's called Town Hall Patriots in Pinellas County. The Facebook group has 1,300 members on the Facebook group. They meet twice a month. Each meeting that they have at a restaurant has 200-300 people every single month, twice a month. And they have also, then they take that Patriot group because it's grown so much. And everybody has, like I talked about before, the different passions and
I gotta make
purposes.
a phone call.
Passions and purposes that they have. So we have divided up into groups. There's people that are passionate about election integrity. So we have an election integrity group that kind of monitors what's going on with that stuff. We have people that are in the law enforcement. They kind of try to keep an eye on the sheriff, right? You got people on the health side, so there's all these different groups. And then when we come together, we share notes of what they found so we can help hold these politicians accountable. That's what we need to do. We just can't take what they say anymore because you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. We talk about going to school board meetings and city council meetings. And I mean, I don't know, like where I live in Clearwater, the mayor in Clearwater, he doesn't have any power. He's just a figurehead. The city council is the one who has all the power and makes all the rules and all the decisions. The mayor is just the PR guy, right? So I don't know if do we even know here in Dothan does the mayor have a power or do they not have power? Wherever your city is, there's different setups of government where the city council has the power, or sometimes the mayor has some power. There's all these different things that we don't know, and that's one of the tools of the enemy is they rely on us remaining ignorant, right? They want us to trust them. They know I'll have all the answers. We defer, and that's been part of the problem. We, the people, have some blame or responsibility in the situation that we're in because we have been programmed, we have outsourced. I said this all the time. We have outsourced our own self-governance to these people. And so now, they've run us into the ground or pretty close to it. So we need to take back our power. That's what Trump said. He said, gave it back to the people. We need to start walking in that self-governance mindset and not defer. Like I said, that's a huge thing. Was we the people have outsourced our own self-governance for too long.
Saw that this local here in Dothan, where they brought an outsider in on the Board of Education and the school board, and she came in and she took our two high schools combined on May 1. So I went to high school here. My kids went to high school here. Now we both lost our alma mater. They took our old school, made it a middle school. Took the newest school, made it the Dothan High School. Took away the Tigers, took away the Cougars, and now they're the Dothan High Wolves. So none of us have our history.
Right.
It's all gone.
Right,
And all because nobody went to the school
Right.
board and thought,
right,
I
exactly.
didn't know about it.
Sure.
And I've sure got a different mindset now.
They rely on our ignorance.
Yeah, it was definitely ignorance on the city's part, because all the people that went to Dothan High would have fought for it to stay. And I just know it would have been different if we'd have just pulled
Yeah.
our.
But that's like, you know, our generation let prayer come out of school.
Yes,
I mean, our generation did.
Yep.
And we were so busy working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, trying to make a living, you know, support our family, you know, the male and the female working, you know. No,
Yeah,
no.
and we have.
Okay, you want to hear breaking news?
Yeah.
So here's the breaking news. And this is a big deal. So I guess I can disclose what I've been doing with the group for a little while is we've been on conference calls reviewing evidence of major I got to parse my words because of what's going on right now. We've been reviewing evidence of major money laundering, big time. It's all over the country, but it's been kind of funneling through Tennessee. The assistant chief of police there, Sean Taylor from Millerville, Tennessee, was the guy that had said bring me to trouble. That's my assessment for what I've seen. It's about as deep and dark as it can be. It's a massive, it looks like a massive money laundering operation that he's been breaking down. And the deep state, unfortunately, right now has removed everybody from the Millerville Police Department. They're raiding them right now, and it looks like they're going after Sean Taylor himself. So we're reporting this live, so this bullshit can't go down. I know many other channels are now getting involved, and they're going to be reporting it in about 20 minutes. This is a big deal. We're talking billions and billions and billions, and it was discovered. The anomalies that I saw blew me away in the way they manipulate the numbers and bring the money through. And I'm just going to say it. There's big banks involved. It's about as deep and dark as it possibly can. And in my opinion, they're right now, the reason why they're raiding that police department and looking to hold Sean Taylor from Millerville Police Department in Tennessee accountable is because he was the only one that was working on disclosing this stuff. That's how sick the battle is right now. And I'm about ready to shake because I was lucky enough to be brought into this group to see the evidence because we were going to present it very shortly here, but obviously they beat us to the punch and they're trying to cut everybody off at their knees. So that's the live news, guys. And it's sad, but very important because that's the state of our country right now. So that's when everybody says, hey, the White Hats are complete in control. Not completely. There's some people that are being hurt daily, you know what I mean? And intimidated. So that's what's going on. It's getting reported right now live. Yeah. It won't hit the mainstream. Yeah. Well, it's not hitting the mainstream media, but I can tell you with my report here, right, it'll hit tens of thousands. And there's at least 4 other podcasters I know. And when we get all together, it's going to hit millions. This is going to get out. We are the news now, right? Yeah. The maximum CNN could get on any one given day is 460,000 at a time. That's the maximum they could get. Right? I can get 3 podcasters together between me, Bruce, and 2 other guys. And if we have breaking news, we can get well over what they're getting. So we are the news now. The challenge is standing up to the evildoers that are willing to protect their controllers when he has hard evidence, right? And why would you need to go after a guy like this? Same reason why you go after Donald Trump, right? He's trying to take down the system. And the reality is where we are right now is I liken the deep state satanic cabal, and I say satanic on purpose because I think they really are. I liken the deep state satanic cabal to a lioness protecting her cubs, and her cubs are the evil apparatus that they have protecting them. So what have they, a lot of other stuff gone on, but on this one scenario that happened, and then he got up and said, fight, fight, fight. So I said, I connected the two together. And then the other things that were going around could have been the setup, right? The show, everything else. But this scenario could have been a divine scenario where President Trump did get clipped in the ear and came and said, fight, 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 fight. And that's the only one that really resonated with me because it connects the two scenarios together. So I'm glad you asked, because I have probably the only different opinion that's divergent from everybody that's out there, but that's what I was thinking. I don't know, does it resonate with y'all?
I always heard 6 o'clock can be dangerous. So
Yeah,
6:10.
that's right.
And, false flag,
But we don't know. And that's the thing.
scare them.
Yeah. And here's what I keep saying, and this is important. We're in the middle of one big frickin' psyop, right? And you're part of it, right? So people ask me all the time, what do you think about Michael Flynn? And I go, I'm not going to tell you if he's good or bad because I don't know. And I said, let me tell you why. I'll say, let me tell you why I don't know. I go, because General Flynn was in control of psyops in the military. That's what he's done. I've heard him on a show run a psyop right in front of my eyes before. I seen it with my own eyes, right? And I say General Flynn is a psyop sandwich. He's a psyop bologna with psyop mustard wrapped in a psyop sourdough wrapped in a psyop Ziploc bag. It's a psyop with it's just crazy. So everybody seems to be black and white. Either he's bad or he's good. I'm like, I can't tell you because it's one big effing
He is
psyop.
definitely a good guy.
The General Flynn?
Yes.
But are you sure you're looking at the right General Flynn? You sure there's not a 2.0 out there right now?
How come Obama
Plain
to
General?
get rid of him?
Well, that could have been a psyop also, right? Yeah. So, right. And Flynn's not up publicly supporting Trump, and he's not at all of them. Well, the original one can. He may have been taken off and out is what we're saying, because they have doubles for everybody out there. And I've met him several times, and I'm like, that's not the same guy. That's just my opinion, right? I'm like, And even President Trump has a ton of doubles, just so you know. And if you guys don't think there's doubles, I can tell you from the beginning of monarchies, there has been body doubles all the time. Hillary Clinton has had like 5 body doubles. Trump, I don't know how many he has, and I don't know if we're always seeing his body doubles, but they have to have them in order to protect themselves. But also, the bad guys have body doubles, and the good guys have now put in body doubles, I believe, in masks to get us going in certain directions. So I'm indifferent. I'm indifferent on Flynn, and like you're like all in. He's good, and I can tell you, Michael Jaco is all off. He's like, this is a bad dude. He's got all the evidence. He shows it constantly. He's like, look at this, and he wanted to be all in on Flynn. So it's a hard deal. And I said, well, Flynn is the master of psyops. In fact, Flynn was asked on a show. He says, like, is there a plan here? And he goes, if there was a plan, I couldn't tell you. He literally told him right that. And then Flynn went out publicly and supported Q, where we go one way to go all. And then a year and a half later, he's completely denounced Q. And he says, no, I've never been involved in that. I've never talked about it. So I believe intentionally, if he's a good guy, he intentionally has to run the psyop so people don't really know. And that's why even the good guys, the so-called white hats, they're playing with our emotions all the time because they have to. They have to. Yeah, I know. But he's also been. Yes, exactly. We have to have disinformation.
Well, really knowing, and here's if you change your mindset and what you could live your life and control what you can control, and let the other stuff just run off your back. Like, for example, like the election and whatever, everybody's gonna, kind of got their panties on the wad about what may happen or not happen on November 5th, this coming election. I don't care. Doesn't affect me. I mean, right? I'm going to live my life. I'm going to do what I do because that's what God told me to do, regardless of what happens. I don't care what happens out here. It's fun to have the discussions, of JFK Jr. live, or Michael Jackson or Prince or Lady Diana. You know, it's fun if the earth flat or round. It's fun to have these discussions, right? To get, get your brains working. But what I do and how I live my life, that stuff, I can't live like that. We got to, living without fear. I got to move in the path that God has put me on, regardless of what happens. I'll let all that stuff run off my back. I love to talk about it, and I'll talk for hours about that stuff. But what I do and how I make decisions in my life, that doesn't make any hell of beans. Doesn't matter to me if that makes any sense to anybody.
I'm not sure Scott McKay's not, there's some doctor that's involved.
There's a few groups out there that are trying to reestablish republics.
I'm a little leery about it.
Yeah, so here's the challenge I've had, and I've a lot of these republic groups and common law groups are unhappy with me, and some are very happy with me, right? Because I'm just trying to talk the truth. I believe some of them are very self-serving, and I believe some of them take a bridge too far. Like they will say things like, "I'm the sheriff of this county," right? Okay, what are you doing? Well, I can't really do anything. I go, well, you're the sheriff. You said you've been put in as the sheriff. You formed a grand jury. Okay, what the grand jury did? The grand jury indicted George W. Bush, which is not a bad idea, by the way. So, the grand jury indicted George W. Bush. Okay, great. Now what? Well, what do you mean that? We indicted him. I go, what the hell does that do, right? You formed a grand jury under your common law doctrine, and you indicted somebody, but you have no teeth. So I've told him, I said, you know what? We have to get back to natural law, common law. Yes, we have to get there, but there has to be teeth to the matter in order to do that. So I've asked a lot of these common law people, and I mean some of the top of the top of the top, and I just asked them the question. I said, okay, do you have a jail? No. Okay. Do you at least have sheriffs to man the jail? No. Have you gone out and arrested anybody? No. I said, so what exactly is the force mechanism behind what you're doing? Well, we don't have anyone yet. I go, well, then I'm not really interested in you declaring something. Does that make you feel good? Right? What's the point of that? I said, but I am, and I can totally support. If you build a jail on a private land, and you put sheriffs around there, and you're willing to go through a proper grand jury process and indict somebody and arrest them and put them in jail, and then let's see if the deep state comes after you and tries to get that person, or if they back off, they go, okay, because if it works, now we can duplicate that all over the country, right? Until then, I think it's a lot of bluster, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. Now, I think there's some good people that I know, because I'm talking to them. I just talked to one yesterday, that are really starting to put some things together, like writing a writ in the proper way. Ultimately, I discovered, and this is my belief, is I've heard President Trump say often, we have to do it what? Legally and lawfully. Legally and lawfully, legally and lawfully. Why would he say that? Well, because illegally, I believe he's talking about this corporate cabal structure we're under right now. And the lawfully would be the natural law, the common law that it should be. And what I believe he's trying to teach us is we need to find a way to combine those two together, and it will naturally maturate over to the way it's supposed to be. The challenge is they go straight for the end zone, right, without running the plays to get there, in my opinion. And I think that's where it all falls on their face. Their intentions are great. So all the people doing the republics and common law, I have no issue with you. Your intentions are fantastic. I think you're putting the cart before the horse some places. And I believe if we can infuse common law language and writs and some affidavits within things that we put in the regular legal system, and make that push over, and at the same time, I even told them to do both at the same time. Do a formal legal controlled, corporate suit, and then do the common law one at the same time, and let's mix them together, because they're going to have to respond to this one regardless. They have to respond to the legal one, right? And then the language in there can pull them over here. And I think that will be the bridge to get people over to this. Now, Is it a good idea to form republics? Yeah, if you have enough power. But a lot of people say, well, you only need 6 people or whatever to do it. Yeah, technically that may be true, but you're going to have to get the support of we the people. So I would suggest here's my biggest suggestion. Maybe this will answer your question better. I would suggest publicly to everybody watching, all the Republic people and all the common law people, why don't you take your egos off the shelf, get together and form whatever you can agree upon, and then go full force and go get them. You'll have my 100% support. But the problem that they're always at each other. Well, my republic is better than your republic, and the way I look at common law is better than yours. And I call it natural law. You call it common law. They back and forth and back and forth. It's going to go nowhere, right? So I think they need to put their egos on a shelf, and instead of them worrying about I need to be the deal, right? If you can get the top 8 to 10 common law / republic people together and say, okay, this one's going to be the president. This one's going to do whatever, right? We're going to figure all this out together. All our egos on the shelf, because ultimately we want what's best for we the people. I think it could work very well. But the problem is all of them want the attention. Many of them want the attention. It's my deal. It's my group. It's my organization. Well, I'm sorry. We're doing the unity tour right here. Freedom in action is something I created, but I would like you guys to put together 90% of this stuff, and I'll say, hey, they do it the best. It's not about Bruce. It's not about me. It's not about anybody involved here. This is about us finding the best way to write letters, effectively, peacefully protest, documenting corruption, boycotting corruption. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. All the things that we can do, even be a digital warrior. But I don't need any of this to be attached to me. If you find one of these ideas and say, Lewis, I have the best way to do this, let me see it. If we come to agreement, I'm like, bam, there you go. This is the best way to do it. Well, Lewis, don't you want to get attention for that? I want my country back. That's all I want. I want my freaking country back, right? I want my kids and my grandkids and my great grandkids to have a beautiful life where they don't have to worry about the shit that we worry about. So I'm not interested in anybody saying this is my deal. Yes, it's my deal because I created it, but it's God's deal, so I'll just hand it over. There's no money. Just take it, right? I take all of this. Everybody, guys, there's no copyrights. There's no nothing. Take it all. It doesn't matter. We need to get our lives back the way it should be, based under God's rule only, in my opinion.
Right. And like I said earlier, with the different ideas, the different republics, it's the same thing about the whole sovereignty, the state national situation. You had the Anna von Reitz camp, the David Straight camp, and then the Russell J. Gould, thing, the claim of a life and all. So, nobody ever here alive has ever had to take down a tyrannical situation. No. So we're all running down these little rabbit holes, rabbit trails, trying to figure out, hey, let's run down this way, run up, hit a wall, up, that doesn't work. So everybody gets all excited. We're doing all this, the shotgun approach, where he is talking about getting all these people together. As in similar, when he was talking about that, I had a visualization because I watched a movie recently, kind of a musical-ish thing called 1776. It was about the Continental them coming together and hashing out the Declaration of Independence, and they were singing. It was kind of musical, it was entertaining. But watching that, how they developed and how they, worked things out, they got to all these people together in a room, the heads of these different colonies, and it almost came to fisticuffs. It almost came to blows with, developing this stuff. So unity is so important. We can do the shotgun approach, or we can take back and let's do some sniper action and, get together, everybody pulling the rope in the same direction instead of everybody going this way and the other until we know we don't know. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
There's so much hate in this world.
Yep.
And there is so much hate for Trump. They don't even, it's just, they hate Trump.